Today's topic is actually a life hack topic, but it is an update in terms of mental health, because this is something I've tried to participate in the importance of making conversations around mental health just something that is a normal part of life, and that it's nothing to have shame around. It's nothing to feel weird or strange. To really move humanity in a direction that says like mental health is important, it's real, it's just as critical to our physical health as any other thing that we do. And that's, I think, a huge learning lesson I've had over the last year is personally experiencing the connection between mental health and how it affects you physically in terms of your physical health. So that's been a huge part of it. But Kristen's actually a couple weeks ago was like, hey, we should do like a check-in and share with everybody, what are things that I've done, and then Kristen's also done, and we kind of, as we do in everything in life, we tend to do these things together, but things that we've been doing together in terms of really trying to take on that challenge every day of like stress management and prioritizing ourselves in terms of our mental health, and realizing like if we are not physically and mentally healthy, then we can't be what we want to be to our loved ones, and we can't be what we want to be to our kids, and we can't be what we want to be to our team. So, just kind of an update on.
I kind of want to give some additional context to add to what Angela said. Back in the fall, I think we did, Angela took a break from social media and from doing the vlogs, and then when she came back on, she shared some very personal experiences that she had with, her own struggles that she was having with mental health and wellness, and really just kind of opening up the door to conversation around that, and being vulnerable and transparent. We're all dealing with some real stuff in the world today. So I've also been witness to her through the past 6 months or so since she did that vlog, and I've watched how she has navigated this new challenge that she was faced with. I feel like for me personally, I've been dealing with anxiety for 20 plus years, 25 years. And so for me, it was just kind of like a part of life. And then I've learned through the years how to navigate it. I made some mistakes, and I had some successes and some wins there. But then really watching her be faced with this challenge, and how quickly I was impressed with how quickly she pivoted and jumped right into solution mode. I don't like the way I'm feeling. Here are some things that I can do to try to mitigate the feelings, navigate the feelings, adjust to the feelings. And I've just been really impressed. So I said to her a couple weeks ago, like, you've done some good work, and I feel like you should share that. It's been inspirational to me. I've got some new ideas out of it. We've bounced ideas off of each other. So I thought this was a good time to circle back and kind of just revisit that again.
Thank you.
So
thank you.
Yeah,
that's great. So some context. One is, as I always like to do in these videos, is if you would like more context and kind of like what the premise of all this is, feel free to go to my YouTube channel, and there's a couple of videos about mental health, and I think one of them was kind of labeled like living all things efficiency, so that tapped into it as well. So just feel free to kind of, if you would like more context behind this, check out those videos and go check them out and everything. But to bring things kind of up to speed, I started experiencing severe, as my doctor, my general practitioner, and my therapist would like to say, I started dealing with chronic stress probably about 1.5 years ago. It was, I think, a multitude of things already that were there for me that were building up, that the baseline of that issue for me that I was having was I was really struggling to recognize I was in a different phase of life. As a mom, as a business owner, I was struggling to differentiate between what was it that I wanted to do versus what I was convincing myself I was obligated to do. So that was kind of like the rocky foundation of which started this buildup of like chronic stress in my life. Because anybody who's known me for most of my life, I like being busy. I'm not someone who likes a lot of downtime. So I am used to I think I just didn't accept that I was in a different phase of life. I was older. I wasn't, 25 right. anymore. In my mind, I was still 25, but we
can't go from the crack of dawn until 2:00 in the morning and not run out of steam and need to set some boundaries and readjust some things. Right. We are getting older, so there's
even relationship management. Like I think that like that there's relationships as you get older through life, like they're managed in a different way, and I was still not there. I think I was still very much in like thinking I was in a different place in my life around, you know, what I could handle, what I should be handling, what kind of boundaries I should have, what kind of relationships I should have. So that's kind of where things started. Then I was hit with the absolute hardest and darkest time in my life, which is when my mom was diagnosed with a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and this was in October of 2020, right? So, you know, here it was. We already had this rocky foundation. Then the pandemic started. Yep. Went through a difficult year for everyone, you know, especially for my husband and I with having 4 little ones at home and dealing with virtual school and blah, 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 blah. And then next thing you know, I get literally what felt like just the, like, Mike Tyson level punched in the gut news about my mom. And this then set me down a road. And mind you, I was already a huge therapy advocate. So I'm in therapy, you know. I had been, you know, I wouldn't say like, I went through periods of time where it would be every week or every other week or once a month or whatever, but not really knowing at the time that I was starting to experience such like chronic stress that it was starting to affect me physically, because I was starting to associate my mom's health as my mom and her daughter. I started really like internalizing that. And I started to actually experience like paranoia level fears that I was going to like die in my sleep. Like something it really
was going to happen to her.
Yeah. Like something had to be wrong with me. I had to be sick. And what ends up happening was it was kind of like, you know, in my mind, I was so fearful of this and that it was creating such chronic stress that I started to have physical issues because of it.
I went through something similar when my brother died. I thought, and it's very common, I think, when you lose a sibling or an immediate family member, when something happens to them, you feel so closely connected to them. If it could happen to them, it could happen to me. Like, it's probably, and then your brain can go, it's a very slippery slope between it could happen to me to it probably is going to happen to me. And, you know, as we all become mothers, that's even scarier to think about something happening to us and leaving our kids. Like, that really takes, you know, to another level.
You go, before you have children, it's like, you don't think about, like, what could death mean after I'm gone. You know, you don't think of it that way. So, flash forward a little bit. Next thing you know, I was definitely experiencing a lot of stress. Something that, unfortunately, that you can look through the course of my life when I've been going through really stressful times is my brain is on fire all the time, and I'm so distracted that I actually, like, fall. I've had a number of different times through the course of my life where I have fallen, like a big fall, before, like, when I'm in the midst of a lot of stress. So
she's distracted, she will.
Yeah. So lo and behold, December of last year, right the week before Christmas, I ended up, after our first snowstorm, I was cleaning off the car, was walking, hit a patch of ice, and that was it. Like, I hit the patch of ice and snapped my ankle and broke it in 4 places. So I'm dealing with that, surgery, insane pain, and then next thing you know, January comes along. My mom was supposed to start in chemo, and that spring, so I'm giving all this context again without getting into too much detail, just to say, here it was, I had all these things happening, and I still don't think I had come to terms with in my head that what I was dealing with was chronic stress to the point that it was affecting me physically. I just was really starting to think that there was something wrong with me, that I was really sick. Yeah. And next thing you know, it's May of 2021, and my mom had actually was told that, hey, her blood was now cancer-free. She had gotten through chemo. They still had to address a secondary cancer, but we were all, like, optimistic for her future, and I thought, you know, hey, like, that means that things are going to be good now. And the next thing you know, we're on vacation, of all places, and I had what I didn't even know at the time was my first panic attack. I had a panic attack there, and then I went through a series of panic attacks. At one point, I ended up in the ER because I was convinced I was having a heart attack.
And it's interesting, the timing, because a lot of times when you're going through the trauma or the traumatic experience, you're running on adrenaline. It usually is a couple of months after the dust settles that it hits your body and you start experiencing these symptoms.
Yeah. So it was really hard for me, guys. The reason I'm sharing this with you, and again, I shared this in even greater detail in earlier videos, but the reason I'm sharing it with you is because it took me months to really come to terms with and accept that what I was experiencing wasn't actually me being sick, wasn't me actually having any heart problems, it wasn't me actually having anything physically going wrong with me. I mean, I'm talking even like my blood pressure was up, and I've never had high blood pressure. I've had amazing blood pressure my whole life.
Blood pressure's always run really low.
That I really struggled with coming to terms with, oh my God, I don't believe you. Like, that's what I felt myself telling myself, and even telling my doctor, like, I don't believe you that stress can cause physical problems, so there must be something wrong with me. I spent countless nights awake all night because I was terrified I was going to die in my sleep. Like, so all of that kind of stuff went on, and I finally, it was, what would the timing be of this? Like,
August was...
No, it was before my mom got really sick with COVID.
Well, she didn't really get sick until the middle of August. So like around, I feel like it was
July.
end of July,
Yeah.
beginning of August.
So in July,
I
started to let myself process it the way that it was explained to me scientifically, because, there's definitely a big logical part of myself with how I typically operate. And I'm like, okay, let's just let myself accept this for what it's been explained to me. What can I do now to try to manage this? Like, so I got into regular therapy, in terms of meeting with my therapist every week. That was one thing I did for myself.
You say finally, but for me, as someone who's been dealing with anxiety and navigating how to deal with it for 25 years, this was pretty quick. Like, you jumped into action pretty quick.
Yeah. It didn't feel that way at the time.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And I started really focusing on health affirmations, because I felt like if I could come to the end of my day and go, I made good choices today. I ate well. I exercised. I made sure I wasn't sitting too much. I got a good night's sleep. And I also started juicing. So my husband and I already bought juicer, but I started doing research about just like how amazing this is for you. And juicing in this case with like beets and all these like super fruits,
kale, and
high antioxidant, high vitamins. But we had already purchased a juicer, and we kind of planned, we had it for like the longest time. I'm like, I'm going to just do it. Every single morning I'm going to have, and I'm not a routine person, so this was like a challenge for me. It is like, get up in the morning, and the first thing that I do is like, I do my juice, and then I have a healthy breakfast, and, I drink a lot of water, and I exercise, and I make sure that I'm getting 20 to 45 minutes every single day of exercising, and just do these things that were allowing me, when I finally went to sleep at midnight or 1 a.m., to affirm myself and tell myself, I'm healthy, I'm okay.
Right.
This was very much a process. It wasn't like an instant remedy. It just started like, I was still having episodes every single day, but then I would go from 5 episodes a day down to 3 episodes a day after a couple more weeks. And after a couple more weeks, I'd be down to 2 episodes a day. And then after a couple more weeks, I'd be down to 1. And then after a couple more weeks, it would be like every other day or every couple of days. Like, these borderline panic attack episodes just were like reducing over time.
And it was through what she called health affirmations, which I think is a really, important way to say it.
Right.
She was literally affirming her own health through hopping on the elliptical every day, doing the juicing, breathing exercises I think you were doing, and of course the therapy, and being honest and transparent with her close friends and family, her support group, Tony and the kids and me and her, her family. It's all really important and key.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's kind of like the context that led up to that. Some other things that I did was, go to my therapist and also talk to my general practitioner. And I said, and I think it's important to talk about these things again, to take away the stigma about dealing with mental health is not just therapy. Obviously there's a lot of people who need medication to really help manage their mental health. And I've never been against it, but I also believe that I was such an advocate for therapy that it's like, your long-term management solution is therapy. The medication, is something that should be evaluated and say, hey, is this medically something that could really help you? Is it something that you should be on long term or not? And
do you have actual imbalance of chemicals that need to be addressed in the long term, or do you need something to help you get over the hump?
Right.
So
I talked to my therapist, and it was like, hey, I really think that, and my thing was I needed to stay sharp. In the work that I do and everything I do, I was like, I couldn't afford to be foggy, and I know that there's a lot of medications out there that can kind of make people foggy, So this was super important to me. And so my doctor's like, I got it. I recommend Lexapro. It's been on the market forever. It specifically has to do with like anti-stress, anti-anxiety, and, and we'll put you on the absolute lowest dosage. So that way, if you don't feel good, it's not like you have to taper in and taper out of it. You can take it, you can go off of it, and that's it, depending on how you feel. So I was like, all right, I think this is the right way to go, and I trust the advice of medical professionals, and I decided to start taking that medication. And he's like, just keep in mind it's such a low dosage, it's not going to be like instant, it's going to take a little time. So I'd say about 2 weeks into it, combination of therapy, coming to terms, talking to my loved ones, getting the support from Kristen and my husband and my family and my friends, and like making sure that they knew the struggles that I was going through and like could be a support system to me. And then on top of it, the therapy, and then the medication, I think really kind of being that cherry on top to help me through that time, to help me get through the hump. And what I noticed was, just like the doctor said, about a couple weeks into it, I just started noticing just like my blood pressure, I could feel was coming down. And like, it actually, like now I can tell you it's been a long time since I've had anything close to an episode. Like it's not something that's daily or weekly anymore. So, and there, obviously for those of you that know, I lost my mom, not to cancer, but to COVID, on September 15th. And, it's been such a conscious effort. The other big things that I did to try to manage through this was also to change relationship dynamics. Something about myself is that when I care about somebody, I care hard. Like, it's not just like, oh, I care about you, but like when I care, I'm invested. And I'm invested into that relationship. And something I think that I've evolved in doing is to recognize, like, you can't chase people down all the time to make a relationship work with them, even if they're family, even if there's somebody that's been a lifelong friend with you. Like, they have to want to address challenges and problems in that relationship as much as you want to. And if they don't, then I've learned, and it's been a hard lesson, it's not something easy for me, is I'm just going to be like, okay, that's the decision they've made. I've made it clear that I care about them and I would like to work through a problem, but they either don't want to or they're not ready to. So when they're ready, or if ever, it's either one, accept where the relationship is at, or two, if they're ready, they can come to me.
Right.
And stop making this like a point of contention and stress in my life.
But that takes work, and it's a conscious choice. And I want to point out, all of the things that she's done has been a choice in a time when it's really hard to make that choice. Mm-hmm. I went through postpartum after I had Andy, and I was really feeling bad for months, and who wants to feel like that? And at a certain point, I decided to talk to my doctor and try to get help, and ended up doing a combination of therapy and cardio exercise to pull myself out of it. I was ready and willing to push the button with medication to get over the hump if I needed to, but I just wanted to try the other things first. They ended up working for me. And we get that it's hard to make that choice to want to be better when you're in that state. It's a weird combination of you feel like crap, but you just don't have the energy to make the choice to get out of it. And make the choice. Choose to feel better. Just make that decision. It's easier said than done, of course. We've been there. I also want to quickly plug the juicing thing a little bit, because I'm a huge fan. When Angela started juicing, I was like, oh, good for you, you're juicing. And then I'd always heard about it and never really thought about doing it myself. It just sounded complicated and I wasn't educated on it. And she just kept kind of saying, you're going to juice too. And I'm like, I'm never going to juice. Stop talking to me about juicing. And then I came to her house one day and she said, so here's your juicer. And I'm like, oh, okay, thank you for the juicer. So the juicer went and sat in my trunk for about a month. And then it moved into my mudroom for about a month. And then finally, a couple months ago, I decided to use it. And oh my God. Like, first of all, researching the benefits of these, especially beets and kale and a lot of the superfoods, what they can do for you it just motivated me.
And by the way, this isn't like a weird plug for some packet powder crap.
No,
that's out there.
Literally, we have a juicer, we buy vegetables, that's it. We're not even going to tell you what brand our juicer is. We're not trying to sell anything. But like, just doing the juicing, I didn't realize how much toxins that my body was holding on to. It was the jump I needed to boost my cardio workouts to clean my system out. I literally lost like 8 to 10 pounds just
within like 3
just
weeks
with the
or something.
cleanse. And we're not doing the whole juice fast thing where all you're doing is juicing. We juice first thing in the morning. We have our meals. It's just something, if you haven't looked into it, I highly recommend it because it's getting those vitamins and nutrients in your body. Nutrition is also a huge part of mental and emotional health. That's something my therapists have always, shared with me. Nutrition, exercise, release the endorphins, talk to your therapist, talk to your friends and family, get medication if you need to, whatever you need to do.
And I think the part too, which is an ongoing thing for me, I'm still meeting with my therapist and like talking through is like those healthy boundaries for yourself, like especially as moms, I think we put a lot of pressure. We convince ourselves that we have to do everything all the time and that we're not, let alone we're not first on our priority list, let alone even on it sometimes to care for ourselves, for our own mental health, for our own personal care, making time for ourselves, even if it's just quiet time. Something I started doing is like on Tuesday mornings, I will start my day at noon because I can, because, we all make it on our team, we all make our own schedules, but I gave myself Tuesday mornings where it's just a quiet house. There's no kids here. There's no work. There's no meetings. I just take my own pace.
Yeah.
I get up when I want to get up. I do my juicing and I sit and I have my coffee at some point in time and I just rest and take a long shower. Oh my gosh. Every mother out there knows what I'm talking about with that,
like
right?
Be present to yourself. Yeah.
And just those little tiny adjustments that don't cost a thing, it just is, the cost is freeing ourselves from whatever obligations we're convinced that we have as moms, as if we are not deserving.
Especially during a pandemic. I mean, guys, if you think about what we've navigated in the past 2 years, it's insane. And we've been, as moms and business owners, you hold it together for your family, for your kids, for your team, and you gotta do what you gotta do to center yourself.
Right. And by the way, let me also be clear to say this doesn't give any person out there, I'm not advising this free pass to be a selfish jerk.
Yeah.
I think that that's something I've actually heard that quite a bit, especially in the midst of this mental health crisis that we're in because of the pandemic. It's almost like some people think they get this free pass to say, screw everybody, I'm going to only care about myself, I'm only going to do what's best for me. That is not what I'm saying at all. As a matter of fact, that's not good for your mental health. I don't think it's ever a good thing where you start to convince yourself that you don't care about people and how you hurt them and affect them out of your own benefit. That's actually going to make you feel worse, assuming that, like, you're not evil. If you're evil, that's a whole other story. But assuming that you're, like, a human being who cares, it's never going to make you feel better to be careless and thoughtless about the people you love and care about in your life. It's more about those healthy boundaries and, like, not forcing people to, like, work through problems that they don't want to work through with you. Not chasing someone down to have a relationship with you that for whatever reason they don't want to have with you. Not trying to help other people fix themselves or fix their lives that don't want to do that for themselves, And so I've really learned about stepping back, in a healthy way. Doesn't mean that I'm cutting people out from my life. I've also heard a lot of comments about, like, oh, I'm cutting this person out, I'm cutting that person out, that person's canceled. I'm not talking about any of that kind of stuff. Because, again, I don't think that actually makes anybody feel better. I think that makes people feel pretty lonely.
To be honest, it's going to make you feel worse. That's what we teach our kids, Yeah. My middle child has been telling me about how some kids are mean at school, and I'm like, well, you need to project the goodness and spread the goodness. And really that starts with doing it for yourself and so that you can do it for other people.
And what's amazing through this, because in my family with our kids, we talk about everything. There is no stigma attached to mental health. There's no stigma attached to sexuality in our home. We talk about everything very openly with our kids. And I think what's great about this is they are not holding me or my husband up on some unrealistic pedestal, right? Like of it expecting or hoping for perfection. They know we're people, and they know we're humans, and they know that we make mistakes, and we're going to make bad decisions sometimes, and we're going to hopefully learn from them together. And because of that, I think what this is just really fostered in, especially my 2 older kids, like this level of maturity and empathy that shocks me. Like with my kids, I'm like, wow, they really do get it. Like if we talk to them about it, like I think as adults, we underestimate children so much in terms of what they can comprehend with actual communication and openness. And my kids have just been like through the loss of my mom, and they're also suffering massive loss because my mom is such a huge every single day part of our lives. But we've navigated this as best as we can together. We mourn together, we grieve together, we laugh about awesome memories together. My daughter, I watched her pray and like just take time out, and she wears all my mom's clothes and like, and everything like that, and just like a lot of like celebrating too of my mom's life, and we do it together, all of it. We feel it all. So anyway, that's the gist of it. Was there anything else you wanted to add to the?
No, the grief thing, I've obviously experienced that with my parents and keeping them alive in my family and my home because we were so close with them and the kids were so close to them. It's something that we do together as a family as well.
Thanks for watching. Below is other videos that you might find interesting. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and also ring that bell for notifications.